All right, this is OneLastMidnight. Welcome back to another episode of Satisfactory. Last we left off, we just got done finishing this concrete production facility over here, where we've got 2 normal nodes of limestone and 1 pure node of limestone producing concrete. And actually, I have part of my facility turned off over in the distance over here. These 2 constructors are not working because the conveyor belt that's feeding the limestone into the facility plant needs to be of higher grade. It needs to be Mark II. There's no way we can support that right now, but at least this is built and it's kind of future-proofed so that when we do get that Mark II conveyor belt, we can turn these other 2 constructors on. Now, with that said, we're producing some serious amount of concrete. Now, I have a problem, right? So I have no iron production happening, which is a serious problem because we're going to need plates and screws and reinforced plates and pipes and all kinds of good stuff. Everything that comes out of the iron facility. On the other hand, we also have no copper being produced, and we're going to need all that stuff. We're going to need eventually copper sheets, wires, and copper cable. So I think what I want to do is I want to invest time getting copper up and running. I did find out that this node sitting way over here is actually a pure node. So since we have concrete coming in and we can expand our base out, there are some trees we need to chop down. I do want to finish this research just really quick because I have the resources to do that. And that's going to open up, I believe, the MAM for us, which will allow us to do additional research on specific items. So let's go ahead and finish off this. Hit that big red button. Oh, I love watching this thing launch off. Which is really exciting.
Milestone reached. The molecular analysis machine, referred to as the MAM, will allow R&D to provide new technologies, items, and buildings based on samples collected in the field. To ensure a greater chance of success during exploration, an upgraded tool belt has been provided, as well as an object scanner and beacons. Note: the object scanner requires calibration via the MAM to enable detection of specific objects.
Okay, so we got the MAM unlocked. We can actually build the MAM right now. And this might be a good place for the MAM to start off with. You know, again, all your stuff is going to wind up moving. So if you're the kind of person that's like, oh, I hate moving my stuff, this game might not be for you because you're constantly rebuilding stuff. I think this is a perfect place for the MAM. I was going to put it a little bit closer, and maybe I should, because I don't really use this power. There's no reason to use the biomass burners on your hub unless, of course, you don't have biomass burners unlocked yet. So as you can see, we can research all kinds of stuff. As long as we have these pieces, we can start researching these items, which will unlock other things. We happen to have a lot of those items already, just from gathering stuff around. So let's get a couple of these things, and we can unlock a few items at the very least. Some of the pieces of research on the MAM are almost instantaneous with 3 seconds. Okay, a pretty good start. We can make fabric now. This hasn't been unlocked yet because we're looking for some items of food. We can also make the color gun and color cartridges so we can start painting things. And then again, of course, we've got a couple different biomass recipes. So the MAM is definitely worth unlocking and getting started on. Now, my little thing came back and I'm on to tier 2. And I think tier 2, what's really important to get started with is the assembler, the copper sheets, the smart plating, all of that good stuff. Logistics 2 is also very important. So I think what I'll do is, well, it really doesn't matter either or. I could use logistics 2 right off the bat because this conveyor belt will be very helpful, but the conveyor belt Mark II takes these reinforced iron plates to actually use. So honestly, having the assembler build the reinforced plates is going to be a lot smarter to begin with. So let's do this one. As you can see, the items that I need are pretty steep, 300 iron plates. I have been kind of doing this manually, to be honest with you. I've just been like setting my phone down on the space bar and just processing these manually. I could set up facilities to process these. I could set up constructors and just have constructors running to produce these items. We're getting there. I'm not quite there yet. We are getting there. So don't worry, even though some of this for me is painful, I choose to do it manually. It doesn't have to be done manually. You could have constructors running in the background, knocking this stuff off for you. And we probably should do that. But I think this is really only going to take me maybe about 10 minutes to do. So let me just pound this out really fast. Okay, 5 minutes later, we have the other milestone already reached. And I did all these manually. Now, I'm not saying this is the way to do it. I'm not saying you should process these items manually. I am saying, however, hold on.
More complex assembly of parts can now be automated. Project assembly parts can now be constructed and sent up via the space elevator. Note, project parts are too complex to produce by hand.
Okay, and she just got saying complex parts are too hard to produce by hand. I tell you right now, they're not. Okay, so what I am saying, though, is don't be shy to use the manual assembly if you need to. In this case, I don't have my iron facility set up. I don't have a copper facility set up. I have to do something manually if I need those parts. And you can quickly do things manually. I had a long discussion with DBA about manual versus automation, and it was interesting because we recorded the time that it took to get to the tier 7 tier 8, and mine came out a little bit shorter doing it the manual way. Most of my items were produced manually, or when I needed to, my the items that I was lacking were produced manually. It doesn't really matter how you do it. I think because the times were so close that putting it down, ripping it back up again, changing it for your needs, so on and so forth, is about the same amount of time as it is just sitting there and pounding on things manually. So, you know, do whatever you feel you want to do. In the beginning stages of the game, I do kind of rely heavily on the manual production of items just because I want to get things done quickly, and I don't necessarily want to set down a bunch of different miners to do things. Now, with that said, I did not have to produce iron because I do have a little iron production facility, an iron bar production facility set up just off of here, off into the distance. So at least I've got the smelting part out of the way. If you do have to add the smelting into the process and you're not automating the smelting, it is going to take significantly longer. Okay, with that focused on, I was going to do iron first, but let's get copper taken care of. I only have one node, and since I only have one node and I just unlocked iron sheets, I can now make a facility that produces all three from this pure node. Now, you know, we do have a little bit of a downside because of our conveyor belt is not going to be moving enough items around. So let's select the Logistics Mark II as the next item we should focus on. I have plenty of concrete. Let's put in the concrete that we need for this particular... Oh, the pod hasn't come back. That's why it won't let me fill it up. Durr! I'm sitting there looking at it. I was like, come back! Okay. Also, in the meantime, I need to do some chopping. There's a lot of, you know, trees and stuff around there. So let me do that, and we'll wait for this pod to come back, and I'll be right back. All right, I took care of all the trees and bushes around those areas. Let's drop off our leaves for leaf production into biomass, and we'll also drop off our wood for wood production into biomass. We're actually making biomass fuel, and let's see what we're doing in biomass fuel. We got a ton of biomass fuel. Look at this. Let's grab another one, and we'll just top off our biomass burners while we're at it. All right, before we cover this area up, let's get this ore.
New technologies can be developed based on this new, superconductive, gold-like element, primarily in power and electronics. A new research tree can now be accessed in the MAM.
And that's going to be helpful because that'll give us the next tier of items. And let's research it immediately in the MAM.
New resource added to the resource scanner.
All right, I built a lookout tower to help us build up our facility on this side. So let's go ahead and get this all knocked out. I've extended my facility far out, at least as far as I could at this stage in time. I'm going to have to move my lookout tower over to a different area so that I can extend it out a little bit better. But I think this is enough room to be able to build what we need to build for the copper plant. And I'm probably going to change the position of this mine just so that it sits better and I'm not taking up so much space. This copper facility is going to produce all three. It's going to produce our sheets, our cable, and our wire. Since we don't have other resource nodes that we can work with, we're going to have to do just kind of a combination of all three. And I think what I want to do first is move this miner, have some sort of lift come off into this direction, and have my machines facing out that way. Now I might, I'm probably going to have to wind up moving my biomass generation facility. We'll see how bad it is. I have a feeling I'm already right off the bat, I'm going to have to move it. I'm thinking I'm going to have to move it, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Let me start setting some of this down and we'll see how this all plays out. I finally got the copper production facility complete. So let me explain what I did. We have an MK1 miner on a pure node that's producing 120 units per second. Now, because I only have the MK1 conveyor belt, this is not the most efficient setup at the moment. I have to wait till I get the MK2 conveyor belt before this becomes fully efficient. Of course, you can see in the upper right hand corner that I'm working on that. It's gonna take some time. So over here, I have the miner splitting off into two different directions. On the left-hand side over here, I have the ore going into 2 smelters, which is then in turn going into 3 constructors, which is producing copper sheets. And that is going into that little storage unit right there. On the right-hand side, the ore is then going into 2 more additional smelters, which is going into 4 constructors, that is producing copper wire. And you can see copper wire coming out on the lower part of this conveyor belt out of the constructors. Now, 2 of the copper wires are going directly into storage. So there's a conveyor belt right below where the cables are going that's putting the copper wire into storage. Now the far 2 constructors are feeding into a 3rd constructor, which is reversed. And it's then producing the copper cable, and you can see the copper cable coming on the top conveyor belt. So again, these 2 are also producing copper wire, but it's feeding into this 3rd constructor, which is producing copper cable. And all of this is everything that I need for copper right now. Now, I'm not getting enormous quantities right now, but I will be getting more quantities in the future. As I go to the MK2 conveyor belt, I'll be able to produce more, and I should effectively be able to produce something like 30 sheets, 30 cables, 60 wires if my math is correctly. It should be around that amount. And that's okay for 1 copper node. Of course, I would like to have multiple copper nodes, but I don't. The copper nodes are really, really far away. So we're gonna have to figure out how to get more copper into this system, or at the very least replicate this system and send the goods down into storage into this main facility. Now, I did notice I'm encroaching on my biomass fuel production facility and my biomass burners. I also had to put on an additional biomass burner and actually turn these last 2 on. I had this 3rd one, I had to turn it on, and then I had to create a new one and turn this one on as well. So these are not where I want them to be. It's a little bit congested over here. I'm thinking because these are iron mines, and I actually have 4 pure iron mines, not 3. I thought I had 3, but when I took down this stuff, I realized I had 4. Maybe I said 4 before. I don't remember. But I have 4 pure iron copper resource deposits. And so what I'm thinking is all of this over here is going to be dedicated to iron production. All the things that I need for iron, screws, plates, reinforced plates, so on and so forth. All that's going to be somewhere over here. So I think what I want to do next time is move this entire biomass fuel production and biomass burners back into here and have that be my power facility off over here somewhere. I'm thinking that the space elevator is going to be somewhere in this area. It might be obstructed by this arch, and if it is, I'll move it beyond the arch and put it off into the distance over there. But that's how I'm thinking, and I'm having my factory set up for now. This was the whole iron facility. It took a while. It took I think an hour and a half I've been recording total, but of course I've cut this video down to shorter. But I've got this finally all set up, and now I'm finally producing my copper related items that I no longer have to manually beat on them. All right, so that's it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like button. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. I'd love to have you in the community. If you want to follow me on any of my social media, you can find the links in the description below, and make sure to hit that notification bell. That way you know when I go live and when I post new videos. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.